Every nation on Earth is buried under a mountain of debt. The United States, over $38 trillion. Japan, $9 trillion. And worldwide, the total debt has exploded past $315 trillion, more than 3 times the size of the entire global economy. But here's the question no one ever stops to ask. If the whole world is in debt, who's the world actually indebted to? Because when you follow the money, when you track who's collecting the payments, you uncover something unsettling. The world isn't in debt to some mysterious outsider. It's in debt to itself, and that didn't just happen by chance. This entire system was designed, crafted, and perfected over centuries by 4 powerful men who changed the course of global finance forever. In this video, you'll learn how 4 bankers, Paterson, Rothschild, Morgan, and Volcker, created a financial machine that traps governments, taxpayers, and nations in permanent debt, and why the system can never, ever be paid off. Before 1694, kings borrowed the old-fashioned way, from nobles and merchants. If they couldn't pay, they defaulted. Embarrassing, yes. But debt was temporary. Then came William Paterson, a failed Scottish merchant with one brilliant, dangerous idea. England was broke, desperate to fund its war with France. Paterson offered a deal. He'd gather investors to lend the government £1.2 million. But here's the twist. The loan would never be repaid. Instead, the government would pay interest, 8% a year, forever. That's how the Bank of England was born. Paterson's design changed history. The government borrowed, the bank printed paper backed by that debt, and for the first time, money itself was created from debt. The more the government borrowed, the more money could be created. Debt became not a problem, but a feature, a permanent, self-reinforcing loop. Interest flowing forever upward from taxpayers to bankers. A century later, Nathan Rothschild took Paterson's invention and scaled it to the world. Before Rothschild, debt was local. After Rothschild, it became global, interconnected, systemic, unstoppable. He built an international network of banks from London to Paris to Vienna, creating a secondary market for government bonds. He didn't just lend to governments, he turned government debt into a tradable asset, bought and sold like stocks. And during the Napoleonic Wars, Rothschild's courier network gave him the ultimate advantage: information. He knew before anyone else that Napoleon had lost at Waterloo, and used that knowledge to crash and then corner the bond market. From that moment, Rothschilds controlled the arteries of global finance. Governments no longer feared debt, they depended on it. Because if they defaulted now, they wouldn't just hurt one creditor, they'd collapse the entire web. That's the trap. When everyone is interconnected, no one can stop borrowing. By 1900, America was rising, but its banking system was chaos. Then came J.P. Morgan, the most powerful banker in the world. In 1907, when the U.S. economy collapsed, Morgan personally organized a rescue. He became America's unofficial central banker. But he was getting old, and the next crisis was inevitable. So in 1910, Morgan's allies met in secret on Jekyll Island, Georgia. There they designed the Federal Reserve System, a central bank disguised as a decentralized network. In truth, the Fed handed money creation to the banks themselves. Now the U.S. government could borrow infinitely. The Fed would always be there to buy its debt, with money it created out of nothing. This was Paterson's design, turbocharged by Morgan. Debt no longer had a ceiling. It could grow forever. By the late 1970s, inflation was raging. Then Federal Reserve Chairman Paul Volcker made a decision that would ripple through every developing nation on Earth. He raised interest rates to 20%, the highest in U.S. history. It crushed inflation, but it also crushed countries. Nations like Mexico, Brazil, and Argentina suddenly couldn't pay their dollar-denominated debts. They were on the brink of default. Volcker didn't forgive their debt, he restructured it through the IMF. Countries got new loans with brutal conditions: austerity, privatization, open markets. In other words, surrender your economy to keep paying interest. It was the perfect mechanism. Debt could never be erased, only rolled over. The interest kept flowing. The trap became global. Fast forward to now. The world owes $315 trillion and it will never be paid off. Because if governments tried to repay, the money supply itself would vanish. That's right. The dollars, euros, and yen in circulation exist because of debt. Pay it off and the system collapses. So debt grows, interest flows, and institutions like BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street collected $1 trillion in annual interest from U.S. debt alone. That money comes from one place: taxpayers. Every paycheck, every tax dollar, every product you buy, a piece of it services a debt that can never disappear. It's not a conspiracy, it's a design. 4 architects across 3 centuries built a financial system that feeds on perpetual debt. William Paterson made debt permanent. Nathan Rothschild made it global. J.P. Morgan made it infinite. Paul Volcker made it inescapable. Together, they created the world's most powerful machine, one that runs not on gold or oil, but on obligation. So the next time you hear that national debt is a problem, remember, it's not a mistake. It's the foundation of the system. And the rent we all pay to live inside it is called interest. If this changed how you think about money, don't just scroll away. Like the video, subscribe, and share it with someone who still believes the debt will someday be paid off. Because here at Unlock Wealth Hub, we don't just talk about money, we expose the system that controls it.